Hi beauties, it's me, Sarah Burns, ambassadress of the seen unseen, ritualist and soul physician. So today I want to talk about the invitational spirit and what it means to stretch our capacity to curate invitations that are bringing in people into our lives to share in activities, in ways of connecting that we actually want more of for ourselves, and why that's really important. So, I know a lot of people that feel like they are not the kind of people to invite, that it's just not their personality type, that they can show up, but that like really creating these like invitations is really, really hard for them. And I want to say that I want to encourage you to explore that belief and realizing that being able to actually reach out is part of how we receive, is part of how we actually let life force and let creation kind of move into our life as well. And so it can be really easy to step into patterns of isolation and even self sabotage when we're waiting for the world to reach out to us and to just be in a place of responding instead of a place of initiating that action based way of engaging with life. So for me, something that is has been super powerful is creating consistent invitations that are cyclical. So I know for myself, especially a few years ago back when I was offering a woman's ritual space called New Womb every month for 2 years. And that was designed as a response to me needing ritual in my life and knowing and me wanting to build community with people in my life through intentionally held space. So, for any of you that are quite sensitive, like myself, you may notice that there's a certain environment that you prefer to be in when just connecting with others in your life. And so I realized that I needed to create that environment. I needed to explore what those edges of that ritual space was gonna be, so that I could actually be held in the container myself and get to explore parts of myself through being witnessed and through sharing and through collaboration. And so that journey of like showing up and committing once a month was so transformational, because for any of you, which maybe not all of you have ever done something like that, like curated and created something really consistently. But another example would be I started with some friends a gathering called the Sound Pod in Hawaii, and that was like every week we would gather and go on this like sound journey together and just go into like really primal explorative sounding, because I needed more of that. And we did that weekly. And another one when I was living in Hawaii was we had where I lived at Peleaina, there was a called a weekly activation. And so every week on Wednesday, people, anyone could really come, and it was an open space with a certain like format that people could kind of know that they were going to drop into. It was always like a potluck, and then there would be a big opening circle with sharing and sometimes like interactive games, and then we would always end in a headstand for those that could do that, and go into just like organic play and music, and there were circus arts, and so that was just a really fun encounter. So for any of you that have shown up to weekly events or events that are being held by others, you may know that it's like there's something really special about feeling like, oh, this place exists, this sanctuary exists, this moment in time is being held by either a collective or a person. And what it means to be on the other end of that can be very different. So showing up consistently is not always so magical. And I know for me, another consistency that I explored was doing Ask the Invisibles. So every week, pretty much, I think I missed a few of them for 2 or 3 years. On Wednesdays, I would do a group Q&A channeling experience, and I had people all around the world that would ask me questions, and it was free. It was on Facebook Live, And that I did that because I needed to practice letting my guide speak through me, getting comfortable with the edges of being seen in like my process and my awkward process of like mediumship. And that momentum and that dedication was actually me creating a practice that involved developing more of what I want in my life. So these are some examples. There's one, another one, as I do every morning, I do a morning tea ceremony with my husband. The baby might be screaming or crawling all over us, but we do it regardless around like between 6:30 and 7. So why I'm giving you these like broad ideas of what you can do. So for me, these are examples of like creating invitation with the people in your life, creating intimate invitations, maybe with your partnership, creating invitation with your community, etc. So on the other end of it though, it's not always so pretty. Like on the other end of it, there are times when I was holding space where I'm just like dredging, like begrudgingly being like, oh my gosh, I need to like hold this space again. And all these stories that come up. And that's part of it, right? Is realizing that like in this journey of like giving and holding space, it's not always just like the people that are holding space, probably for gatherings that you're, especially consistent ones, they might not always be in the best spaces when that cycle returns, right? And we might not always be like in our top game when we're being asked to show up for something that we've committed to. And I just want to encourage you, in my journey, is like it's the showing up that actually developed a sense of trust in myself, right? So if I can show up for others, can I show up for myself? Sometimes it's harder that way. But this journey of the invitational spirit is realizing that part of the invitation is also you witnessing the invitations around you and showing up for them. So I'm kind of went on a side tangent around like committing to showing up. And now the other side of it is like making yourself available to others that are inviting you into spaces that they desire more for in themselves and in their life. And like maybe exploring that edge of like, oh, I'm just tired, I don't want to show up for this thing again, whatever those stories are. And like the power of actually realizing that you also showing up is part of a journey of creating a relationship of trust and realizing that that is an offering itself. Like I acknowledge anyone that shows up for what I'm holding. Like that might take a lot of behind the scenes for you to even like energetically, emotionally, physically make that happen for yourself. And so knowing that you on the other end of that invitation get to think about that, like it's one thing for this person who's holding space and making themselves vulnerable and like whatever it means for them to show up regardless of where they're at in themselves for something they believe in. But then for you to step back and say, can you stretch a little bit? Can you stretch past your comfort level of like, maybe patterns that you've gotten into where that story of like, oh, I don't have enough energy for it. Or, like whatever those stories are that are preventing you from like actually meeting those invitations around you, like look into that. Because what I found is it's that give or take, right? If I am just offering and offering and offering and putting invitations out and certain folks aren't actually reaching back or like honoring or valuing that invitation, after a time, I'm just going to stop. Like I feel like the energy just feels like it's just draining out, right? So if you're on the other end, how do we honor those invitations in a way that also honors where we're at in ourselves, but also giving ourselves that moment to like stretch a little and think, why am I instantly saying no? Why am I instantly saying yes? I feel like that's quite the tangent, but I just want to encourage you, if there's anything that you're getting from this musing, is to notice in yourself, is there a desire for something in your life that you feel like you want to show up for you more? And how can you create invitation for others to meet you there? Because that accountability is golden. Like so much of my business has actually been developed because of that accountability of others showing up. Because I know for me that pattern of like that I need other people to show up to feel like I'm actually like what I have to bring is worth the time that I'm putting towards it, right? And so even with this message, like if you're watching this video, like I send out newsletters to hundreds of people and I rarely get any responses, but if you have responded to me before, like that means so much to me, because it's that, especially when I invite you to like give feedback, um it's that give and take that actually feeds us and inspires us or doesn't, right? And it allows those stories in the back of our heads, if if we're in a place of invitation, to be like, oh, it's not that I'm not liked, oh, it's not that, like, it's. And so I just encourage you to like be interactive and honor that reciprocal relationship of the invitations that are around you and the invitations that you could create outwards, and knowing that that stretchiness is worth it, regardless if you're met in that invitation. It actually starts building these bridges of being seen, being acknowledged, being like letting people know that you are around and you are available and that you want to participate in life and you want to be engaging with maybe more extended beyond your own like inner tiny little like close network of people, that you want to be seen as somebody that people can reach out to, that people can maybe like collaborate with. But all of that requires you starting to make yourself available and also showing up to the invitations that have come your way. So that's my little musing for today, and may your invitations be centered in a place of curiosity and excitement and creativity and inspired passion, and may you just enjoy the ripple and the responses that come your way. Aloha.